Hi, I'm Randy Robison. This is Life Today TV. I am honored to have a return visit from someone who kind of rocked our internet world last time. We had lots of views on this interview. And we're going to update it and cover some material that maybe you missed. Dr. Emerson Eggerichs is here. He wrote a phenomenal book on marriage called Love and Respect. And I'll just tell you, it helped me as much as it helped anybody out there. And so if it can help me, it can help you too. He's got a new book called Love and Respect in the Family, which takes it to a new level. And really, the principles he talks about are true in every relationship I've found. So, Dr. Eggerichs, is glad to have you back. Am I saying Eggerichs? That's a tough name to say.
Yeah, it is. I was born with it.
Yeah. Well, the message here, okay, for people that don't know who you are, let's start at the very beginning. Kind of give us the foundation here.
Well, I pastored for many years in East Lansing, Michigan, college town, and studied the Bible 30 hours a week for nearly 20 years as part of that teaching ministry. Also had my PhD in family studies. And years back, 1998 actually, I saw something in Scripture that I had not been paying attention to in the area of marriage. Ephesians 5:33, a husband is to love his wife, and a wife is to respect her husband. And that second part of the verse, I realized we hadn't been paying attention to. And of course, women want to go gag me on respecting my husband. They say, I don't feel any respect for him. He's not superior to me. I'm not inferior to him. He hasn't earned it. He doesn't deserve it. You want us to return to male dominance and patriarchy. Not going to do that. I'm not going to give him license to do what he wants to do. I'm not going to lose a sense of myself. I'm not going to return the feminists back 50 years. I'm not going to be treated like a doormat, subject myself to emotional abuse. But other than these things, Dr. Emerson, I'm really open to hearing what you have to say about this. And so you and I serve and die for honor. We give our very lives for our buddies for honor, and yet the disconnect between what women felt about honoring a man and what you and I feel about how we honor each other was light years apart. And as I got into this, the University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years, and they said, we now know the two key ingredients for successful marriages, love and respect. Well, the Bible said that 2,000 years ago. And we began to unpack this and helping men and women understand this because they get on what we call the crazy cycle. When a wife feels unloved, she reacts in a way that feels disrespectful to her husband. When a husband feels disrespected, he reacts in a way that feels unloving. And they spin on this crazy cycle. And though we all need love and respect equally, we've asked 7,000 people this question. When you're in a conflict with your spouse, do you feel unloved at that moment or disrespected? Randy, 83% of the men said they feel disrespected. 72% of the women say they feel unloved. So the felt need during the same conflict is as different as pink is from blue, though we all need love and respect equally, and she needs R-E-S-P-E-C-T, and he needs love. At the end of the day, she'll say, how can you treat me disrespectfully and say you love me? Whereas most men are assured of a woman's love, so he doesn't doubt her love unless she says, I don't love you. What he thinks is she doesn't like him. So that was the marriage message. But then we got involved in Scripture as to what God says to parents about parenting and what he says to children about how they're to relate with mom and dad. And I realized the 10 Commandments, honor father and mother. Jesus quotes it in Matthew 15, honor father and mother. Paul quotes that in Ephesians 6, honor father and mother. And I realized parents need to be honored. They need to feel respected. This is a need that parents have. And in this book, we talk about that. Rather than dismissing that as narcissistic or egotistical, we're saying that's a legitimate need, and we must not be ashamed of that, and we will feel disrespected from our children. The question is, how do we deal with that moment? And what we're doing is validating that emotion because it is a true need, not just an egotistical thing in most cases among the good-willed. But the real question is, what do I do then when I feel my children are being rude, they're ignoring me, they're disregarding me, I'm feeling disrespected, I'm feeling even offended? How do I deal with that moment? And that's what we're unpacking in this book.
Let me ask you about, and I know this works in both the family and the marriage, but when you say respect, you listed a lot of negative things there.
Yes.
That women don't want to give into.
Correct.
And most of those we would agree women shouldn't, give into. We don't think they should be doormats.
Right, exactly.
What do you mean by respect?
Good question. And that's a question that women ask. They say, I have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about respect. I said, do you know what disrespect is? Oh, yeah, I got that down. They'll say. But it's an attitude. The University of Washington, again, discovered that when a woman is upset, her eyes darken, her face turns sour, hand on the hip, scolding finger, the sigh, the rolling the eyes, and the head goes back. And when estrogen kicks in, the word choice of disrespect and contempt is incredible. So what we ask a woman to do is soften that. It's more about your demeanor, and it's not about him deserving the respect. It's about respectfully confronting those things that are unacceptable. Women don't understand that how they come across, and we say in that case with that sour face and so on and so forth, is there any person in his life who talks to him that way? And if the answer to that is no, then he's not hearing your heart. He's feeling you're using this topic as an opportunity to send him a message that you don't like who he is.
Is it good at that point for the man to say what I've said? You're not my mother?
I have one mother, I don't need another.
Right, because it kind of can feel that way.
Yes,
especially for those of us who have children. We see how she treats the children in that motherly way.
Yes,
that can be the hand on the hip kind of thing.
That's right.
And when that turns on the man, you're like, I'm.
That's right.
Is that the kind of feeling? Is that the kind of vibe?
Yeah. I mean, we feel that she's mothering us, and that feels disrespectful to us. And the key, of course, is for us to realize she's trying to do the loving thing. She's not really trying to be disrespectful. That's why that crazy cycle says, without love, she reacts without respect, he reacts without love. Her ultimate thing is to help us understand she's perhaps feeling unloved, and she's definitely trying to do the loving thing. But what happens is we feel she's being disrespectful. And so then we tell her that, and she feels even more unloved. So women know they're right at 4 levels. He was unloving in the first place. I tried to move toward him to do the loving thing, to talk. While we're doing that, he tells me I'm disrespectful, and I feel even more unloved. And so when they get together with each other, they all have the same experience, and so they're absolutely convinced they're right. So if they're right, he's got to be wrong. And I make the point that he's not wrong, he's just different. Because you can pick up the same thing. He feels disrespected. He seeks to do the respectful thing, usually by withdrawing and calming himself down. In our world, that's the honorable thing to do. Only to hear that we're the most unloving human being on the planet, and we feel even more disrespected. So we know we're right, and therefore if we are, she's got to be wrong.
And our buddies will confirm that all day long.
That's exactly right. So what we have to do as mature people, unless there's an intrinsic evil, that he's beating up the kids or something, that most of these are conflicts over preference differences. We're just looking at an event, an issue differently. And what we have to do is realize, because I'm right does not mean that my spouse is wrong. They're just different. And if we begin to pass judgment on the other, most women move toward the husband to criticize and complain because she's trying to do the caring, loving thing. But in a man's world, that feels disrespectful. Exactly. But the University of Washington found ongoing criticism feels like contempt to a man.
Nagging.
On the other side, when men withdraw, and 85% of those who withdraw in Stonewall is the male, the women were asked, what do you feel when he does that? And they said, it feels like an act of hostility. Because she couldn't imagine doing that in response to what she perceives to be a minor criticism. But you and I do that, and they found that when we're at that point of conflict, our heartbeats get to 99 beats per minute, we're in warrior mode. So it's the honorable thing to disengage. If you and I were best of buddies since boyhood, we would disengage, drop it, forget, it's no big deal. Our relationship is more important than this issue. And so the honorable thing is to disengage. So we do the honorable, respectful thing, but she labels us unloving. She does the loving thing, and we label her disrespectful. So we're campaigning to help couples understand that they are good-willed, but they misunderstand each other because as male and female, we do it differently. And Jesus said in Matthew 19, have you not read, he who made them from the beginning made them male and female. Not wrong, just different, I would add. And it's crucial then that two good-willed people realize there are going to be these flare-ups. This is inescapable. Sarah and I are going to have these crazy cycle moments. But what we've got to do is realize she's a good-willed woman who in most cases is either feeling unloved or is trying to do the loving thing. She's not trying to diss me. And women need to realize that he's an honorable man trying to do the honorable thing, and he's not trying to be unloving. Truth is, he'd literally die for her if someone attempted to kill her. And Jesus said, no greater love is a man than this, that he laid down his life for his friend. So according to Jesus' definition, you're married to a very loving man.
Now, what are the differences when this gets into your children? Because it's obviously a different dynamic, you know, between my sons, obviously different from my wife, and even my daughter's quite different from my wife.
Exactly. As the children get older, you have an interesting thing. Parents need to be honored, respected, and I saw in Scripture, children need to be loved. The problem, of course, is that every parent unconditionally loves their child, but those children don't always feel that unconditional love. So what happens again when we feel disrespected as parents, we end up reacting in negative ways that feels unloving to our child, and then when our child feels unloved, that child begins to react to us in a way that feels disrespectful, and now we're on the family crazy cycle. But what you find also, as the children get older, you now begin to see that gender difference. So as a father toward a daughter, she's hypersensitive maybe to an unloving thing from us.
Absolutely.
Whereas our sons are a little bit more sensitive to what feels like disrespect. I'm writing another book on mother-son relationships. As that son moves forward, he's responding less to her love and more to her disrespect. And he's very conscious of the fact that she's maybe coming across to him in a dishonoring way, and then he shuts down and withdraws. And she tries to communicate even more lovingly, but if she presents that in a way that feels disrespectful to a 15-year-old, she'll lose him.
Yeah, I know. I got a 16-year-old son, and you're hitting it right on the head. And it does change. How as a parent to know, I mean, I got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, 15 to 20 now. How do you know when these changes, are there any signs that they may be shifting to something different?
Yeah,
as a child?
Yes, I think as they move into the teenage years, clearly you'll see the man and the boy, the woman and the girl. It'll begin, but it manifests itself early on. I'm coaching mothers on how to use respect talk to a 6-year-old boy. You know, say, I don't say just, I love you so much. Say, I really respect the fact that you played with your friend so fairly there. You shared your toy. I just want to salute you. Use what I call respect talk in the same way that we coach fathers to use more of a love tenderness with their daughters. But definitely to your question, when they move into teenage years, particularly mothers towards sons, we're coaching dads a little bit more with daughters, and we are, I think, more cognizant of that, but we've missed how to help mothers speak this respect conversation with their boys.
Yeah, it's
and
huge.
even not talking to their boys. Mothers are always on their boys because they care, but if your 2 sons are out playing catch, I say to the mother, go out there and just sit in the chair and watch them for 15 minutes and don't say anything. It's what I call the shoulder-to-shoulder friendship with your sons. Just be with them without talking to them or at them. Just watch them do an activity. And when you come back in later that night and say, would you clean up the room? Boom, they go up. Boys are energized by their mothers in different ways than mothers have been coached on. And so one of the things we're bringing to the table is understanding how to motivate a boy, and it's different. But we haven't done a good enough job, in my opinion, on helping mothers understand that. And when I talk these terms, mothers go, whoa, because instinctively she knows what I'm saying is true.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it does work, and then the other doesn't work, right? And we've seen that, and that's, I'm going to steal this book and take it home.
Well, and I think to your point, mothers say, well, how do I do this? Well, you don't have to do it perfectly. You can say to your 15-year-old boy, son, you would literally die for me if someone came in and attempted my life. But you're not cleaning up your room. You're not doing what I've asked. Now, you're a man of honor. How do I say this in a way that you don't feel I'm dishonoring you? Because I feel you're failing to do what I've asked you to do. Talk to me as your mother. How do I say this in a way that you don't feel I'm dissing you? I say to mothers, if you're willing to do that, watch what happens. You will be stunned at how this boy responds to that.
We're going to try that. And you know, the issue of cleaning up the room is exactly what we've been dealing with at my house. And I told my wife, you know, when you tell our son, hey, you need to clean up, she, does the laundry and folds the clothes, just ask him to put them away. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? And she'll mention it, and then he'll go, on with his day, and she'll say, well, he didn't do it. And I'll say, no, do you understand? He didn't do it because he's defiant. He didn't do it because he literally did not think about it again.
That's right.
He acknowledged that he needed to do it when he was walking out the door, but he couldn't do it at that moment. He literally, it was not on his mind, and she can't fathom that guys work that way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's true, and that's part of what we talk about, the crazy cycle. We have to decode whether our child is disregarding us because they're defiant or because they're still childish. And one of the points we make about a 16-year-old, we call them sophomores. That is the name we give them. It's a compound word. Soph is from Sophia, the wisdom, and more, moron. And so we see a combination of incredible wisdom in the 16-year-old, and the next second, they're a moron. And we have to allow for that discrepancy, but we also have to decode, is he being just childish here? And we would expect more maturity, but part of it is, my own daughter never hung up her clothes when she was a teenager. They were all over everywhere. You'd think you could lose a toddler in there somewhere. I mean, there were so many clothes. I decided maybe we should put pegs in the ground, in the floor, to give the appearance everything was hung up. But you have to decide.
That's not one of the advice pieces in the book, is it? Is it?
Well, the point is you have to choose your battles too.
Okay.
And part of it is sometimes we get irritated with our kids because we feel offended and disrespected when sometimes maybe this is a period where we just shut the door.
Right, I hear you. I've said that tomorrow. Just shut the door. Just, it won't bother you, right? Great stuff. Obviously, the books are out there. Your website where people can get more information about. You're still doing the seminar.
loveandrespect.com. We are.
You're still doing the seminar. Okay, so
We are.
those are ongoing.
Exactly.
So loveandrespect.com. I mean, if you're married, if you're a parent, I got to tell you, just put this on your to-do list. Read it. It will impact you. It will make you better at what you do and bring peace to your household. So thank you again for all the wonderful work that you do. We're thrilled to have you back. And don't miss Dr. Eggerichs when he is on Life Today. If you did miss that program, you can see it at lifetoday.org. Thanks again.
Thank you.